All right. I'm going to tweet that we're live, and let's go. All right. Looks like we are. Oh. Hang on. All right. I think we're ready to go. We're live, so let's get started. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in. This is the first and only dedicated international wildcard-focused League of Legends podcast or show. So I'm Cameron, and I'm here with Emily Rand, Alex Manisier, Fusilero, and Wonder, representatives from total five of the 8 international wildcard regions, and we're going to kind of break down the different teams that we know about, talk about some of the matchups and what makes each of the teams interesting, and just give you a couple of reasons to get excited about this tournament that we think is going to be, honestly, the tournament that I'm most looking forward to this whole half of the year, much more than MSI itself, actually, because the matches are going to be really close and really exciting, and Rox Tigers isn't just going to destroy everyone. So to get started, let's just have everybody introduce themselves. I'm Cameron. Twitter is @ShiroKaisen. I cover LJL as well as some LCS and other regions. Freelance writer, about to be a full-time engineer. All right. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll go. My name's Emily. I write for The Score Esports. I cover Korea, North America, and then I watch a lot of Brazil. I don't do as much Brazil content as I previously did, but hopefully I'll be able to do some more of the coming season. I have a couple things coming out this week on INTZ, which is the Brazilian representative at this tournament.
I think Emily cut out for a second there.
Did I? That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not that interesting. Someone else go.
We can fill in the blanks. Alex Manisier, Twitter @Alex Manisier. Used to work at Riot. Saw the error of my ways and came back to the NEET life. Not really doing much of anything at the moment, apart from watching a lot of League. Still write here and there, but I don't think.
Alex.
Is it?
I think your mic cut. I think
his camera's cut off.
About 8 months, so some might say I know the League.
Oh, you cut out for a little bit.
Oh, it must be my uni internet. How good is it? Like,
it was fine until suddenly your camera froze and we stopped being able to hear you. All right. Well, let's move on to the next introduction while Alex figures that out.
I'm Dean Warburton at Fusilero 1. I'm freelance writer. I primarily focus freelance writer and Twitter analyst. I primarily focus on the LMS, but by extension, I've also been to take a look at GPO when I can. I'm currently just a business student. I don't really have anything interesting.
And Wonder?
Well, you can find me at TL Wonder. I'm currently at Liquid Legends stuff, and I'm going to work for Russian LoL Sports soon. So, also I cover LCL in English and in Russian. So, yeah, that's it basically.
All right, cool. So, in case you aren't really familiar, the IWCI is the International Wildcard Invitational, which is going to be taking place starting on the 16th and running until the 23rd. It features 8 teams. Detonation Focus Me from Japan, Hard Random from Russia, Ints Esports from Brazil, Isurus Gaming from South Latin America, Lion Gaming from North Latin America, Saigon Jokers from Southeast Asia, Supermassive from Turkey, and the Chiefs Esports Club from Australia. And so to start out, I think we'll go through the 5 teams that we know really well and talk about what makes each of those teams interesting and what some of their highlight players are and what some of their weaknesses are. And then from there, we'll
Is your internet cutting off?
We'll bring up Ints Esports from Brazil.
Okay. So yeah, you like roboted out for a minute there, but I'm assuming I'm going
yeah.
first. Okay, so INTZ are a returning representative. If you remember them from last year, they lost to Besiktas Esports in the finals after being, like, I guess, generally a tournament favorite. So this year, I know this tournament means a lot to them, and they really, really want to go to MSI. Just a brief rundown of the roster. They have Yang in the top lane, Revolta in the jungle, Talkers mid lane, Mikau AD carry, and Jockster support. So it's actually, even though they did have a few roster changes last year, this is the exact same lineup that you saw in previous years. In my opinion, I think the thing that makes INTZ such a dangerous team in general is the fact that their players are all fairly surprisingly adaptable and flexible, both in champion pools and just general playstyle. So usually when the meta shifts, even if they struggle at first, they can usually find a good balance and something that works out for them with the champions they play, and they can actually do a lot of really creative things because of that flexibility. Weaknesses, I think, and like I actually have an interview coming out with Talkers that was really fun to do, and I talked to him about the previous MSI and International Wildcard Tournament, and he had a lot of pretty interesting things to say just about like their mentality. And he was like, yeah, I think we definitely kind of tilted in the finals. So I mean, obviously that might be something that they'd be worried about going into this tournament, but for the most part, I think their mentality is really, really strong. They went through a lot this year. Just within the scope of Brazil as a region. And yeah, that's like quick overview of the team.
Are they going to be arriving on time this time?
They're already there, as far as I know. Yeah, they already left. So yeah, they don't have the that sick one day to get there after their own finals. They were reading like their preparation work for the teams. They apparently like were given like binders and study materials on the plane. So like they like studied on the plane. They arrived at the tournament. They played their first game, and I think they like power napped in between the games. Played their second game, and then the second day were like noticeably improved due to sleep.
Yeah, this was the International Wildcard Invitational last year, which everyone thought they were going to win. And then the first day, things did not go well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched some of the CBLOL finals a couple days ago, and I was really impressed by Yang, especially. His mechanics on Echo and some of the other champions that he's picked up were just they looked top class. I was really impressed. Yeah, and Revolta is obviously a god.
Yeah, it's interesting because he took like kind of more of a backseat role for the majority of the season. So that was really cool to see him come out and have those kind of stunning Echo performances against Cade because, I mean, like I said, that team, the cool thing about that team is that they can shift their carry focus according to either the current metagame or how they want to play due to the flexibility of their players. So it was really cool to see him have those kind of performances again, since we haven't really seen that from him this split particularly.
So they were more of like a bottom side focused team earlier on in the split and shifted to top side as Echo became ridiculous and stuff.
That and mid. I think this was kind of the season that people finally started to realize that Talkers is a top tier mid laner in his region. Where I think he is received, because he kind of lives in the shadow of Pain Gaming's Kami and then Cade Star's Takeshi. So this was kind of the first season where I saw people stepping back and being like, oh yeah, like Talkers, he's really good. Just because he had, I guess, a few more like flashier plays this season. But yeah, and then also jungle, because they kind of made that shift to go back to like a carry jungle style, which is all the rage right now. And obviously, like Revolta kind of made a name for himself last spring in Brazil with his performances, and then internationally.
Can I ask a question about that carry jungle thing you're talking about there? Because in my mind, there are two distinct types of carry junglers. Like when you think of junglers that carry a game, right? I think of maybe Yankos from, I guess it's H2K now, who kind of just like, he made a name for himself by getting first blood every time by moving around the map and basically making all his lanes win at once, and then they snowball from there. And then there are junglers with like mechanics good enough that when given enough resources, they just go off and carry the game. Insects and KTV is a good example. Admittedly, I haven't watched much of the Brazilian region this year, but I always remember Revolta as being that sort of like gank-heavy jungler. Is that true now, or?
That was kind of the I guess they actually, in my opinion, visibly struggled with that adjustment because, as you pointed out, the carry jungle style now is kind of more of a farm up and carry on like Nidalee and Graves instead of a more like heavy ganking style. And previously, that's what he was known for, is just impacting the map really, really early by either killing his jungle opponent or getting into a lane and trying to snowball that lane immediately. So they could constantly kind of dive turrets as well. I definitely think he's, as you said, more of the latter than the former. Like more of a ganker, someone who I would say prefers to take over a game by giving resources to his team. Like I know most people probably the only thing they know about Revolta are the Lee Sin performances from last international wildcard. Like if you've seen anything from him, it's probably those. And even then, he just kind of took over the game by constantly being in lanes and killing people.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, for me,
I just thought I'd bring it up. Sorry.
No, it's a good point.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, it's his Gragas performances around that time that really that I just remember. Maybe just because that's the specific games I watched, but guy's good.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I remember there was a pretty distinct argument for him being the best wildcard player across all the regions sometime last year. It was him or Seros. I don't think there was a good argument for anyone else. But yeah, definitely excited to see what he's going to do this year.
Yeah. There's a lot of strong top sides at this tournament, which we'll get into as we go along. But I think watching like Yang and Revolta versus like Udapon and Catch, for instance, is going to be really, really fun.
Yeah, especially because Catch doesn't seem to be challenged in his region at the moment.
Yeah, we'll get to.
Oh, I'm sure you know more about that than I do.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, let's move into Japan, which is my region. The team that qualified pretty dominantly from the LJL was Detonation Focus Me. They're the team that competed at both of the International Wildcard events last year and sent their mid laner, Seros, to the International Wildcard All-Stars as well. Their roster for this tournament is Udapon in the top lane, Ketch, formerly of Spenu, in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, Zerost, who's a new member to their team this split as the AD carry, and Eternal, who used to be named Vivid, also from Spenu, as their support. And this season, they kind of did what they said they were going to do last summer, which was just destroy the competition and prove that they're on another level from the rest of Japan. But last year, that was when Rampage recruited their own Korean jungler and their own Korean support and really brought themselves to the same level. But this year, some of the Korean players had to go home, and some of the other teams had really unfortunate roster swaps, while Detonation Focus Me brought on objective improvements to their jungle and objective improvements to their support, where before their support player was one of their mechanical weaknesses, because Kazu, who was their support player before, was a really good strategic player who was really cerebral and was always thinking about drafts and everything like that. And you could see that he worked well with the team. He just did not have the mechanical skill to keep up with some of the top supports internationally, like Dumbledoge. He would miss thresh hooks. It was pretty bad when the pressure got to him. But now he's been replaced by Eternal, who is a challenger Korea tier mechanical support player, and they've brought in Ketch, who basically was completely unmatched the entire split. He could walk into his opponent's jungle, take all their buffs, solo kill the enemy top laner, and go 7-0-6 in a game on Rumble, and it wasn't even close. But that's not to say that he was the only carry threat on the team, because Yutapon, former AD carry, switched to top lane, is one of the most mechanically gifted Japanese players, and really wildcard players in general, with a wide champion pool, can play everything from the meta champions like Poppy and Echo to stuff like Sion. And he's the only player who regularly just picks Sion into anything because he loves that champion. And Seros, who in the mid laner basically can play anything. He's played a ton of just random stuff, and will continue to just pick more random stuff when the pressure's on, and has no. He's never the kind of player that you expect to get when the pressure's on to play it safe. He's not the guy who will be like, oh, we can't afford to pick this game, I'm gonna play Lulu. Instead, he'll just pick Zillion when Zillion wasn't meta, which is what kind of made him famous at first. And I think their biggest weakness right now is that Zerost, their newest mid laner, or their new AD carry, is definitely on the mechanically weaker side. He's never made it to Masters on Korea. He kind of hovers around Diamond 3 on Korea, and he's never played internationally before. This is his first tournament, and he is a very, very emotional guy. He when he's really on a high and he's doing really well, he's really streaky. If he gets one kill, he's liable to get more kills. But you can tell that there's a tilt warning for this guy. And so what actually happened last year at the International Wildcard Qualifier was that Detonation Focus Me won their first two games really, really strongly. They crushed the Chiefs and BKT, and they were destroying Dark Passage. They were up 10,000 gold, and then they threw it away in probably the most traumatic experience of my time as a League of Legends fan. And they tilted and tilted and tilted and did not win a single game after that. And I talked to their manager when I was in Japan at the end of the last year, and he was like, yeah, their mentality was just completely broken after that game, and they weren't able to perform. And so I don't think that Ketch or Vivid will tilt, and I think that Yutapon and Seros have the experience to keep it together, but they really are going to have to watch Zerost and keep him on, because if they lose one game and he gets crushed particularly, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and especially in this meta game right now, I think if you have a boosted AD carry, it's really, really dangerous, because AD carry is arguably, I would say, the second or third, probably second most influential position in the game right now, just because of how long team fights are in this meta game. I definitely feel like it's just going to come down to the early game and whether or not Zeros gets crushed in lane, because there are communication barriers between him and Eternal. Even if they look good against other LJL bot lanes, but I mean there are some really quality bot lanes at this tournament, and definitely my concern is whether or not they can hide him enough in the early game to get to the phase where Yutapon and Zeros can just carry team fights. Yeah.
And on top of that, the lane swap game in LJL is not nearly as developed as it is in a region like Korea or any of the other major regions. So they've spent a lot of time playing in 2v2s. and not a lot of time developing a really crazy detailed early game where they do lane swaps and transition and trade a bunch of towers and are able to really skip that power trough. So if they're not able to get, if they get stuck in a 2v2 against, if they choose a 2v2 against a stronger bot lane, Eternal might be able to help keep him safe, because Eternal is probably the most mechanically strong support at the tournament. Then that's one thing, but it's a worry.
Yeah, definitely. Especially against, well, I'm going to plug my own region bot lane, Radiant Egypt, which I suppose I'll use as a way to talk about Chiefs in general. Because at this tournament, Chiefs, you say you don't watch OS at all, right? Say you're coming in as someone who only watches the wildcard tournaments every now and then. You're like, oh, Chiefs are back again. They probably crushed OS. But the story of Chiefs this split has been something completely different to what we've seen before. They came in as maybe third or fourth best team. So at the start of the split, people didn't expect them to win at all. Pretty good reason why. Mid laner Swiffer was touring the salt flats of Bolivia, I believe. And now he's touring the salt flats of Oceanic Dynamic View, but that's a different story. But without Swiffer, the captain, the mid laner, they were pretty much sunk. And it looked like that for a bit. I mean, you get some games where Cheese would get hidden through the early game. And, sorry, I should probably list the roster, shouldn't I? So it's actually the same roster from last time. It's Swiffer top lane, Spooks jungle, Swiffer mid lane, Radiant, AD Carry, and Egypt support. But like I said, it's not the same team that was there at the last tournament, because they swapped out their mid laner and they swapped Swiffer back in. That halfway through this league came and basically saved their whole season. And they did it, and this is the weird thing for me, because for me, Chiefs have always been a team that have coasted on by the pure strength of their roster. They have the strongest roster in Oceania. Not even Legacy, who picked up King, got Tally back in top lane, have a stronger on-paper roster than Chiefs do. And so they would always do stuff like, they'd pick losing lanes in mid lane, like Teleport, Twisted Fate, which you probably should not be able to get away with at like a good level. But Swiffer was good enough that he made it happen. But now those picks aren't working for him anymore. And I think it's because the individual level of both players and the overall roster strength across the board in OS has actually increased this split due to a lot better coaching. And like every team understands a lot better how to play the game now. There's no more solo queue theatrics in most games, unless you're talking like Infernum versus Trident, but that's a different story. And so Chiefs are now a team who have taken all their fundamental strengths and now applied them to the macro side of the game. And I have to give Chief Jish, his coach Jish, credit for this, because Chiefs have a really nuanced understanding of the macro game now. It's something that they lacked before, but definitely showed the capability for having in those teleport system games. So I always come back to Radiant Egypt, because I think despite everything, right, Swiper is apparently beating Haunter in lane in TSM scrims. And Spooks is obviously a very talented jungle at the moment, but Radiant Egypt, they're the ones you rely on actually when like Chiefs were, to set the story, right? Chiefs were 2-2 after taking the first two games of the grand final against Legacy. Any lesser team would have tilted off the face of the earth after getting bodied twice in a row by Carbon. But Radiant just pulls out one of the best Calista games. I think it was Calista anyway. One of the best Calista games I've ever seen him play. Just a mechanical freak when it counts. And I know, man, it's a meme at this point how Radiant tilts when he plays internationally. I mean, we saw Shistana jump. I think it was Game 4 against Bangkok Titans at the last qualifier. But, oh man, I feel like such a fraud for saying this, but this is the tournament I think that Radiant will show up. He's got a big chip on his shoulder now, to be honest. You don't get bopped this many times and not come back with some sort of vengeful streak, I suppose. But again, if Radiant is their clutch strength, he's also their clutch weakness. I think Swiffer and Spooks and the top side of the map, Swiper as well, they look pretty indomitable when they're on form. But compared to the international competition, they're not actually at the top. Like they're pretty good, they understand the game well, but they're no more than the sum of their parts. And I think if Chiefs are going to win against like objectively stronger teams on paper, like Supermassive or INTZ, they need to rely on the strengths that will win them games against tougher teams. That being their macro game and the clutch factor of players like Spooks and Radio. But as an O's fan, I'm a bit nervous, honestly. I don't know what's going to happen. But I know that Chiefs have put more work than ever into this, so let's just see how it goes.
Yeah, Chiefs right now, for those of you who don't follow them on Twitter, are working with Red Bull in Los Angeles. They're training at the Red Bull studio. They're scrimming North American teams. Alex just said they've been scrimming TSM and apparently doing pretty well. So they're trying pretty hard this time, and I'd love to see O's show up because they have such a really cool domestic scene, and I think there's a lot of cool culture there. So I'd love to see them do well.
Cool culture. Yeah, that's a polite way to say it.
We want to move on to GPL.
All right. The issue with IWCI Jokers is that they kind of had a lot of luck on their way to IWCI. They barely won the Vietnam tournament, and I think the bigger thing is that Bangkok Titans have got screwed really hard this time. The big issue is that the Bangkok Titans development has been stalled so heavily because they don't play against other C teams anymore. They made the GPL winners of their nations only, so BKT has only played against Thai teams, and they never drop maps in Thailand. There's no Thai team closer. They don't never get tested. And then right before GPL, they lost Warlock, and they had to try Intresso and Sek for top lane. And Sek's a jungler, and Intresso's a mid laner. So neither of them. So BKT basically had no proper prep since they had to try scramble for a replacement for Warlock. But for Zygon Jokers themselves, I think the most optimistic thing I can say for them is that their bot lane might be the best coming into IWCI. Celebrity and Sue they pretty much destroyed Moss and Lloyd last at GPL, and considering how previous IWCI showed that Lloyd and Moss are a really strong bot lane within the context of wildcard, it's no small feat to completely crush them in and out of lane. The issue though is that, first of all, they have a really predictable pick ban. They always do the same thing. If they can get red side, they take red side. When they take red side, they first pick jungle and top lane, where they just pick some potato for row and a meta jungler. Normally, they like Graves and Elise mainly. Then they take a bully bot lane like Lucian Janna or Kalista and Alistar, and then they always counter pick mid. I have never seen them not counter pick mid. They've never, because I'm not sure. It's not like Levitas to carry, the bot lane is clear to carry, but they always leave mid for last, and it kind of works. It just normally amounts to picking Lissandra into whatever they've picked.
Do you think that's a product of Levita being a weaker player compared to the other mid laners in this region? I know, well, G4 was really scary earlier, but he kind of fell off towards the end of the tournament. What's the reason behind it?
I mean, they still did the counter picks against Imperial Pro Team, and Light's not a bad mid laner, but he's not a laner. His strength comes from roaming around with I can't remember the name of IPT's jungler now. It was some really weird name, but he just mainly is just like a sec. He's like the jungler's doing be Light, and the Vita does, and they still went for counter picks mid all the time. So the Vita is okay. I think that only really Seros is terrifying for him. He should do fine. My biggest concern is really Ro. He's really weak. He lost every lane. He does grasp the meta. You can give him top echo, and he's not going to force a team to do things like blind pick Poppy when there's clearly better top laners available. But he got crushed by Sek and Intresso, who weren't top laners until a few days before the tournament. And considering that their top laners like Smurf and Utapon, that's an issue. And they can't really remedy it with lane swaps, since GPL doesn't lane swap. They basically trade turrets and then just go back to 2v2 and 1v1 anyway.
I'm going to ask an offensive question here. Would Fool Lewis have been a better GPL representative? if they had won, because I believe the final was really close to Vietnam.
Yeah, it was really close. Basically, any of the 4 teams in the Vietnam finals could have won it, but I don't think Fort Lewis would have been better. I'm gonna be honest. The biggest thing about Fort Lewis at an IWCI is that I'm pretty sure SOFM would tilt off a cliff almost immediately. Like SOFM, he's talented, but the kid's ultra cocky. He plays so many roles just because he has a legitimate belief that he's better than them. Like, if a teammate isn't performing, SOFM go, get out of my team, I'm taking your role now. And he's done this so many times. So I think Saigon Jokers is the best representative, but I don't know. I think I still would rather have had the proper BKT roster with Warlock over them, but BKT just really unlucky.
And if we had Warlock, we could actually get post-game interviews.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, that dude's English is crazy. Like, that's not even a meme. I talked to him at All-Stars. He was actually really, really well put.
Yeah.
So, as for their jungler, Jinky, he's okay. He's basically Levita Santorin. He just goes to... He can play the meta junglers, but he basically... When Levita wants a gank, he just tells Jinky to come mid and gank for him. Like, he got dunked by 007X, and 007X is... I mean, 007X has improved, okay? He's gotten better. He's not as stupid as before. I mean, we're talking by GPL standards of stupid, but he's not as dumb as before. But then when you consider, like, Catch and Revolta, Jinky is out of his depth. Like, my maker says at the top side is completely out of their depth for IWCI, which is what... And since the GPL's lane swap is the most basic form of we're going to trade tier 1s and then go back to standard lanes anyway... They really don't have a remedy here. So I think playoffs is a reasonable expectation. I think they can beat Chiefs and Latin America, but winning it all, like beating Detonation FM or Hard Random, is really a long shot right now. Unless Row drastically improves or the top meta shifts even more into potatoes to cover up Row, then maybe. But right now, they're just really predictable because at the end of the day, the GPL is fundamentally the same regardless of team. It's all about random team fights. People just run at each other, fight each other, and sometimes one team doesn't end up dead for it. It's just the difference with GPL teams is how they get to random fights. So Joker's case is that their bot lane wins really hard, and then the bot lane picks random fights for the Jokers.
Yeah, so they're the LPL of the wildcard team.
Pretty much.
Without the money.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Vietnam is pretty good money-wise. It's like there's a lot of sponsor value in Vietnamese teams. Like the anecdote I got told by Clement Chu about it was, I can't remember, it was either Corsair Forum or they pulled out of Taiwan and got something like triple their return on interest when they moved their sponsorships to Vietnam. Like, money-wise, Vietnam is pretty good, and Saigon Jokers has like a pair of Korean coaches. Vietnam has good infrastructure, has very good infrastructure, but it doesn't seem to help them be anything more than let's go fight things, hooray.
Do Saigon Jokers scrim anyone outside of GPL?
I don't think so. I don't think I know they used to have links to Taiwan, but as far as I know, the LMS doesn't scrim with GPL anymore. Maybe some of the lower tier teams. I know Machi likes to scrim with wildcard teams for whatever reason. And I know you want to tell the story of Detonation of how Machi said that Detonation FM would be top half.
Yeah. So Machi Esports did an AMA a while ago, and when asked about Detonation Focus Me, because it was known that they scrim with them, they actually said that they thought that DFM, with their current roster with Catch and Eternal, was a mid to top tier LMS team. I don't know if I'd go that far.
I wouldn't go that far.
They're certainly not as good as AHQ or Flash Wolves, but
I mean, they're probably better than Cougar. You got that going for you.
Yeah, but that's a pretty cool endorsement, regardless.
But I mean, so okay. So basically, the GPL has formatted in a really stupid fashion. They've removed the multinational tournament. Like, it used to be just this big tournament, all the big teams, and now it's only the champions of each nation and some random best of 5 King of the Hill thing.
Yeah, I was actually really confused because literally the only time I pay attention to the GBL is like going into this tournament, and I looked at that and I was like, wait, what the heck did they even do to this league?
Yeah, as I said, it was pretty good for Vietnam because Vietnam got to like keep everything to themselves. They don't have to show everything to other nations. But BKT were by far the biggest sufferers because Thailand is worthless. There's no one even close to BKT, regardless of what they're doing. Like they just troll pick. They just play even stupider than usual. And they still never dropped a map. So they never tested. They never were forced to reflect upon whether their playstyle was effective. Except for like these random best of 5s in the King of Sea tournament, where every nation except for Vietnam took one map off BKT in like I don't know, some like 20 best of 5s BKT played. I don't remember the exact number, but in like 20 best of 5s, non-Vietnam nations took one map off BKT the entire time. Like no one's even close to BKT in Vietnam, but now instead we have to deal with charity seeds for Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia for some reason.
It's sad that Singapore is a charity seed now, considering SGS.
I don't know. Singapore is pretty much done. So it's like the thing about Singapore and esports is that since Singapore is expensive to live in, like. Yeah, it needs leaders, like these people who can inspire players to just play for passion. Like now, he just basically reappears once in a blue moon to collect stream money from China. IWCI plays in China, and Chowie's gone to Taiwan. So it's like Singapore doesn't have those leaders for the nation anymore. Like the creative is like Miracle, Peloson. I don't know. There's no one. It's like Singapore Central is disbanded, and I think like. You can now buy Insidious Gaming. I got told like last year you could buy Insidious Gaming, a team that finished top 4 in the GPL for $3,000. That's how bad it's gone. Like Singapore's basically done. So the nation's not going to be relevant anymore. It's on the bright side, in terms of GPL competition, Philippines and surprisingly enough, Malaysia have actually showed pretty good competition. Like. Imperium Pro Team finished second in the regular group stages, and Kuala Lumpur Hunters took 2 maps off BKT that tournament. Like one of them was a weird base race, but the other one was a straight up win. So it's kind of working. The Philippines and Malaysia seem to be showing improvements with the new format, but it's really hindering the growth of BKT. So I think the GPL is probably going to get progressively weaker if they remain in this format. They need to bring back the big multinational tournaments so BKT can be properly tested, and BKT is basically the only threat to Vietnam that exists right now. So
all right, so let's move into a region that has been getting a lot stronger recently, as opposed to weaker. The LCL up in the Commonwealth of Independent States. Wonderful.
Well, LCL simply became better because we finally got a league instead of like some random Star Ladder tournament. Hard Random will be a representative of our region there. It's like the 3rd time in a row that they're going to go, and up until playoffs, I'd say that Hard Random was looking like the best wildcard team, like from all regions. But after playoffs, they got, I'm not sure. So basically, like Smooth and Kira are the most famous players because everyone knows that they like solo killed Marin and Faker during the All Stars. So like they're simply the gods. But they actually got a new jungler, AD carry, and support. Their support is really good. He was the #1 in US Challenger last year. And that's like first time since Diamond Proc, since Season 3, that Russian player was top 1. He's pretty good. Like, Liquid is really good. Their jungler is pretty suspicious though, but like, Stasios was a Moscow 5 top laner before, and now he basically returned to the jungle. Where he started before, like in Hard Random, and he got pretty hard exposed during the LAN finals because of his inability to play carry junglers. So yeah, that's pretty heartbreaking, especially considering that now he needs to go against likes of Revolt or like Catch. That doesn't spell any good for hard random. AD carry is a side grade at best. Lex was okay, and like a Miracle is pretty okay as well. He basically plays like Callisto Lucian and that's it. But you don't like expect him to carry or like take over the game. So this team is pretty solo lane based, and they never showed anything special during the LCL season, neither during the regular season or during the finals. And I know, even for me, they're kind of like a dark horse right now coming into wildcard finals. Because, like, as I said, they never showed anything beside the casual comps. They played, like, Anivia Stallion games, like Lulu comps during the regular season, and in, like, LAN finals, they played Maokai a lot. Maokai ZU comps, something like that. And basically, they never showed anything they're capable of, and they're definitely capable of more than that. But I still probably gotta rate them like top 3 with likes of Brazil and Japan, simply because I hadn't seen anything from Turkey, and Turkey has a history of fumbling in best of 1 formats. So yeah, GPL fall kind of works well for CIS. So like, I know, should be okay, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, hard random. Like, I see them every single time, and the one consistent factor is that Kira is a beast. Like, I know it sounds a bit hollow, but he's probably the most reliable player in all, like, probably every single wildcard region, in that he always will, you can count on his performances. And I think, like, I was worried because a lot of these wildcard teams are coming in with mostly consistent rosters. You know, Chiefs haven't changed a single member of their lineup. INTZ aren't much changed either. But hard random, switching out everyone except for their solo laners, it seems like they'd struggle at first. But I suppose Surf and Kira are just so good that it's really easy for any player to walk in and say, I'm just going to play for you. I'm going to set you up, and you're going to be like the core of our team. But at the same time, like, Wanda, you're mentioning that Stelios is maybe not exactly the explosive jungler that you might need in this metagame at this point in time. And I just wonder, like, is that going to be such a problem that hard random are actually going to struggle against teams who are stronger across the board, as in, like, teams that have higher average strengths than them?
I mean, sometimes he's not, like, that bad. He just tries too hard sometimes to get advantages for his team. So it kind of leads to him dying a lot in the jungle, like losing a lot of pressure, and they basically should. That's why they played a lot of Anivia comps, so they like could revert to like Smurf and Kira basically carrying the team fights, etc. Because hard random are really good in team fights, even with like all disadvantage. Like, I'm not going to say that they like Russian Xiaogu or anything like that, but they're pretty good at fighting from behind, that's for sure. And I mean, you can't really afford. I don't think you can afford to lose like a lot of pressure against likes of INTZ, because Revolt will just expose you. So there's just not enough punishment in LCL, because like Empire was the only basically team with a better jungler, and Empire just lacked a lot of carry power. They basically had none from mid lane and AD carry roles. So like the only game they won was basically stages intentionally feeding on Nidalee. And yeah, that's it. I know, like, should be pretty scary on paper going into wildcards, but I think, what's the actual format? Like, are we going round robin into finals?
It's a round robin best of 1 and top
into finals.
I think so, okay. Yeah.
Because like, if it's into top 4, I'm definitely like 100% sure that hard random are going to make top 4, because of they're pretty good in best of 1 formats, and like even CIS All Stars were like top 2, despite not being the strongest there. But if it's like best of 2, I know might be harder, but still I I'd rate them as a high possibility of getting there.
Yeah, I've actually like this whole time I ever since interviewing Lex at IWCA last year, I've really been looking at CIS as the biggest wildcard region to one of the biggest wildcard regions to watch going forward, because now there's so much more money coming into the scene and people are finally able to have like a real league, and we have teams like the new Gambit coming up that are probably going to be pretty strong. So I'm excited to see Hard Random. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch.
New Gambit might be a fun team, but we'll see. They still need a lot to prove.
Yeah, Gambit actually really, on paper, it looks like they're going to come in and just like stash everyone. Right? I mean, what team with Diamond Procs isn't? But at the same time,
not really.
I know
the
that
problem. Okay, go on.
I know that you feel very certain that Kira and Smurf will beat their solos, but because apparently like Vomco has this mental block against Kira, which might be an issue. Because I mean, on paper, like it's Lex, Vomco, and Diamond Procs. They should not only by far LCO, but they should probably be favorites for IWCI itself. But
I mean, they still should be like top 2 next season, because Navi isn't really that good, and they are kind of going to change the coaching stuff right now, try to find something else. I guess there will be like roster swaps. Empire is probably like a fluke into the finals, so I don't know. Gambit probably will be in finals at least. Will they find a way finally to beat Cura? I don't know. Probably.
Let's not forget though. There's one thing that will make Hard Random better than Gambit, no matter what. Hard Random has a mid laner with a weeb name, and as we've seen, mid laners with weeb names
always win.
Mid laners with weeb names are really good. Just look at Brazil and Turkey. Naru, the best mid laner in Turkey, has a weeb name. Takeshi and Kami, best mid laners in Brazil with weeb names. Saros is Japanese.
I mean, you could look at LPL, man, like Zhao, who his tag used to be Angel Beats, and now Rowan doesn't give up on first seed.
I thought about that until you reminded me.
My favorite Zhao weeb name was like during an off-season tournament when he changed his tag to Saberwho. I was like,
oh, that's so bad. That's so bad.
Let's not talk about weeb names anymore. Fusi might get like a love boner for Kuro. Because everyone knows Kuro's the best mid laner in the world, right?
Obviously, Kuro's the best mid laner in the world. He's first in LCK, so he has to be the best mid laner in the world. That's how it works, right?
And speaking about the best mid laner in the world, did I cut you off, Cam?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. We don't have anyone from Turkey on our thing, but I think a lot of us know a lot about at least a little bit about TCL, so we should talk about them next. But go ahead, finish what you're gonna say, Alex.
Nope, I was going to do exactly what you just did, but you did it better than me, so that's all good.
All right, cool. So TCL, last year at the International Wildcard Invitational, we saw Besiktas come in and give a really strong performance. The Turkish crowd was really impressive. But this year's TCL, actually, Besiktas did not win because what happened was Besiktas sold... Well, yeah, I was going to...
Yeah, it wasn't actually Besiktas, it was like the other team.
The brand
roster is now super massive.
Yeah, the brand Besiktas had their roster acquired by Supermassive. So the team with Thaldrin and Dumbledore and Naru, those guys joined Team Supermassive, and then immediately afterwards, Besiktas bought a different team. So the team Besiktas did not win, but the players from last year's Besiktas are going to International Wildcard Tournament.
I
mean, basically one of them. It's just Dumbledore is the one that matters anyway.
Yeah. And Turkey has historically had these just really, really strong players. The league has been one of the deeper ones in the wildcard tournament. If you look at the playoffs are actually really close. Dark Passage, who went to the International Wildcard qualifiers last time, lost to that new Besiktas roster that was acquired in a really close 2-3. Whereas when you look at a lot of the other wildcard tournaments, you don't see close games. Usually one or two teams are the best, and everyone else is really far behind. So, and Turkey also scrims pretty regularly, and their players play on the European ladders. And as we heard, as we've seen before, they've made it pretty high on the ladders. And yeah, Thaldrin as well was at last year's IWCI as well, and he was one of the best top laners at that tournament. Known as like a leader, one of the leaders for his team.
Yeah, and yet for all the superstar power of their roster, you know, like they took, at least in my opinion, the two best top laners in the region, Fabulous and Thaldrin, and you put them on the same team. Now neither of them have much competition in terms of like macro impact at least. And then you got Naru, who's always been like the best player in the region, and then Double Doge, who's like that rising star, right? It was actually, for me at least, maybe I'm missing something that maybe none of us really watched Turkey that much, but it seemed to me like this roster should have come first, and yet they had to play tiebreakers to get in. So I'm a bit interested to see how to look out.
Yeah, like on paper, this roster has improved from the roster that we saw before with the addition of Naru in the mid lane. I don't know if Achu is a better 80s carry than the old Besiktas 80 carry, but Dumbledore, Thaldrin, and Naru are insanely good players. Dumbledore's killed Faker. So what more do you need?
Naru's talented. My issue with Naru has always been he seems to like really go on full tilt. Like there was always games in the wildcard tournaments where Naru would just int hard and then just go off into a side lane and refuse to leave it until his team loses. Like obviously he's a talented player, like he's always high up in the US ladder, but every IWCI he's kind of like Radier in that he seems to choke or disappear once he comes to the international tournament. So I'm not sure about Naru. He should be like maybe top 2 mid there, but he doesn't seem to perform up to that standard when it comes down to it.
Yeah, one thing that that is pretty clear is that Turkey is not going to be a team that's going to be in danger of tilting. Their mentality last year, at least, because Detonation focused me up against Dark Passage, they were up 10k gold and they'd gotten a pentakill on Saros' Gangplank, and Gangplank is not exactly an early game champion, and that was the team with Naru on it, and they came back from that 10k gold lead, played a really strong late game, took advantage of all of DFM's mistakes and won that game, and because of that win, were able to make the finals of that tournament, which they wouldn't have been able to do if they'd lost that game. So we have players like Zerost, who and the famed Ost choke. I don't think you have to be looking to Turkey to choke at all.
I mean, I don't think TCL doesn't really choke. It's just more Naru seems to be an emotional player, which is apparently what I've heard about him. He's kind of one of those players who can like it goes both ways. Like sometimes he can completely collapse, but sometimes he just like gets this high where he's like he thinks he can't do anything wrong and he's right about that. But so I think like Supermassive, I would say. I think I'd say it's the third strongest team coming into IWCI. Can't do anything wrong and he's right. I think third would be a reasonable expectation for them. So I think like Supermassive. I'm not sure if they would beat INTZ or Detonation FM.
Yeah, Detonation FM really does throw kind of a wrench into the predictions because the roster is so different from what we had last year with only the solo laners being the same. And on paper, you have 2 LCK players and 2 really strong solo laners, so they look like they should be a team that would do insanely well and should be a threat to even INTZ. But it's their first international tournament as this roster, and they have a player who's never played internationally before, along with 2 Koreans. So, like, my gut wants to put them in that top 2, and like my heart wants to put them in that top 2, but I'm scared.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think top 2 is my conservative prediction, just because I think that it's just the simple fact that they don't get tested. Like, yeah, they by far DLJL, and that's nice. Like, okay, so they're clearly the best team, but we don't really know what the LJL stacks up yet so far. So they could just be the big fish in the little pond, which just get exposed come IWCI. But given how tight their roster is, like, okay, Catch and Eternal are like I just Down syndrome tier in LCK, but they're still people that qualify for LCK in the first place. So
hey, Vivid was okay. Catch was not good. Vivid was okay.
Okay, Catch was special. Let's call him that.
Catch was bad.
He was his namesake, right?
He was,
like,
he was
like he got caught, you know. So
I mean, Eternal was fine, but it's like they're banned because of LCK, but that's fine for IWCI. But and obviously Utapon and Ceros are both proven that they are top tier wildcard talents. But there's always like, are they just getting away with things that aren't getting exposed because the LJL is weak?
Yeah, I think Catch has really just had a ton of freedom to kind of do whatever he wants, partially because jungle is definitely the weakest position in Japan. The only jungler who could even come close to Catch was Tussle, Dode, but he had to go home in week 7 back to his university in Korea due to what I think is probably visa issues, but I'm not sure. And the native Japanese junglers, you have Isurugi, who's okay on Unsold Stuff Gaming, but the other Japanese junglers like Awaker and Rainbrain, who's not even playing this season.
Oh God, I forgot about Rainbrain.
Would you like to discuss Rainbrain's other occupation besides League of Legends?
Oh, Rainbrain is also a prolific lewd artist. If you find his, yes, one of a retired Japanese jungler draws a lot of lewd art. Yeah, it's really the stuff that's not lewd is really good. But this is a family show. I'm not going to recommend.
It's all good. It's all good. All right.
Yeah,
I should point out that so it was actually you who told me that first, Cam. And I was like, when I was at Riot, I wrote up the program guide for the people that watched All Stars down in Melbourne. So they got this really cool pamphlet, right, with like info on all of the players. And I put that in as one of the fun facts. I just said he's a prolific fan artist under the name Fujimato. I'm not sure how many people actually followed him up on that, but
oh God,
yeah, that was the thing.
I really hope that some like 10-year-old League fan did not go home and look up his art. I really hope not.
Oh, let's just use that as a narrative for why I left Riot. Let's just pretend that I got fired for like putting some kid to league hentai.
Yeah. He has some really good safe for work like Jinx pictures and some Toho stuff, and Lulu too. He's a really good artist when he's not being lewd. Anyway, so I think on that note, let's. Did anyone get a chance to watch any of the Latin American League? I did not. I had to cover NALCS as well as LJL, and I was watching EU, Korea. I was not able to fit in any of Latin America. Any of you guys?
I was not, unfortunately. Sorry. I mean, I know like vague things about Lion Gaming just because I recognize like a few of the players on their roster. But other than that,
I think it's worth talking about the plays at least.
Yeah, if you look at Isurus Gaming from Latin America South, they have some of the players who went to IWCI before. Zycro, their AD carry, was the player that was highlighted for the IWCI as the big leader of their team and the player to watch.
And then he was their worst player there.
Yeah, he did not impress at the. He was a member of Chaos Latin Gamers before, when they played at IWCI, and they gave Detonation Focus Me their only win at that tournament. But Hard Random also choked them, so fun things happen. But I'm hoping that these guys clearly have players with experience, so I'm hoping that they at least do a little bit better than they did at IWCI.
Yeah, Isurus Gaming are probably the weakest team at the tournament, just on paper at least. I mean, their leader is not a very good player, and I think I'm pretty sure the consensus is that Latin America South is weaker than Latin America North, just because all the Mexican teams are just on a better level, really. But I think Leon Gaming, I don't know if that's Lion Gaming.
Lion Gaming.
Lion.
I'm gonna call them, because it looks like a lion. I'm gonna call them Lion Gaming. They still have some of the strong players from previous tournaments. Seiya moved back to AD carry. He played his last game in mid lane at IWCI World tournament actually. Actually won the 1v1 tournament, I believe. Or was that Naru? Oh, it's Kira. That's Kira.
Kira,
Yeah. But he came second, and he did it on AD carry champions just because Caitlyn and Lucian are fucked with on 1v1. But he's back in AD carry now, and Lion Gaming, I think they dropped one game through the whole playoff. I didn't get the chance to review any of them in detail, but what I can tell you is that they feel a lot more comfortable now than they did last year. Like, it's just a matter of whether or not they can translate that into an international performance, because it's just so hard to say when these teams go onto an international stage, even though they've got the home crowd advantage in Mexico City. It's really hard to say whether or not they can play their own game, because, at least in my opinion, the biggest issue pretty much every wildcard team has is a refusal to play their own game once they start playing teams from other regions. It's the same problem Chinese teams have when they play against Korean teams. They refuse to stick to their guns. They try to play to the Korean game, and you can't out-Korea Korea. Like, people have tried in StarCraft over 12 years now. It doesn't work. What I would really like to see, and I think not just for Lion Game, but for every team in this tournament, is a willingness to back their own region's playstyle, because they're always going to be better at playing their own game than anyone else's game.
So with that, let's take a look at some of the first matchups that we see on the schedule and see what people think about these. The first matchup is here we are, is going to be Lion versus Isurus Gaming, actually, which since LAN and LAS, it seems like LAN is by far the stronger team. We probably would predict Lion to win that matchup. Not that any of us can really say for sure. The next matchup looks really fun. It's Hard Random versus INTZ. How do you guys think that matchup's going to look?
My immediate reaction would be that Station's weaknesses would get abused by Revolta. That's like my first thought is that the jungle matchup is very lopsided in favor of INTZ, and then Talkers and Yang, they're good enough to not let Smurf and Kira like run over the game, which is basically like if Smurf and Kira can't put on lane pressure, then Hard Random doesn't really have a plan B. They need Smurf and Kira to be performing, or else they don't have anything else going for them. So my immediate assumption would be that just by virtue of how the solo lanes match up, Hard Random can't really flex anything over INTZ.
I mean, it kind of sucks that Hard Random are supposed to play INTZ in like first day, because they're yet to even fly to Mexico City yet. They're flying this night, so they'll be like.
So they're the team that's going on the like super low amount of.
So yeah, it will be like day and a half.
I guess a jet lag excuse.
Yeah, but I mean, they're playing Oceania later that day, so I won't have like jet lag excuse there, because Oceania is like the second worst region. So, yeah. But yeah, INTZ should probably win simply by abusing like the jungle, and should be. But I mean, we'll see. I don't think Hard Random will be able to chase or anything like that. So it will be mostly about INTZ simply outplaying the lanes. I don't know how good are they in lane swapping, but like if they go standard lanes, Hard Random should be probably favored. But we'll see, I guess.
INTZ knows how to lane swap pretty well. I mean, the thing about them is that they didn't really. I feel like if you watch the CBLOL finals and then you watch the playoffs, there's like a significant amount of improvement that happened from their just their semifinals match to their finals match in terms of understanding the current meta game. And so I think because they do seem to have a really good understanding of how to fit that within their own play style, which is usually fairly aggressive early and kind of, I guess not fully divey, but they do like to take down turrets as quickly as possible earlier. I don't know. I think I would also. I mean, I'm always hesitant to pick the team I'm rooting for, just because I'm one of those people. But like, I would hope that INTZ would be able to take it, just based on what I saw from them in the finals. If they'd played the way they did in the semis in the finals, then I'd be a lot more hesitant to say that they'd win, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So the next matchup is Supermassive versus the Chiefs.
Australia versus Turkey.
The rivalry, apparently.
Yeah, no, this. Oh man, it's every single time Australia plays against Turkey, it's like neither team plays the way they're supposed to, and so any result. It's the matchup where both teams kind of just smash the mold and just either bring out something completely new, or they play like they're not supposed to, and then Turkey loses. But I think the key to this matchup is absolutely the top lane, because Swiper is low-key one of the stronger top lanes at this tournament. He's a strong carry player, and he actually hasn't been asked to play potato tanks in a while. I know it's the potato tank meta again with Maokai back in the mix, and now the Iceborne Sunfire build on practically every former assassin champion in the game, like Echo. But the thing is, those champions like Echo and Fiora, they're all mechanically intensive, and if there's one player who can take those champions to the maximum, it's Smurf or it's Swiper, and Smurf's not in this game. So I think this matchup comes down to if Supermassive opt to play the 2v2 into Radiant Aegis, because as good as Dumble Doge is, I think Radiant Aegis are massively improved from they just keep improving really. They're massively improved from the last wildcard certainly. And if I'm Supermassive, I think my best chance is in a lane swap. But it just comes down to whether or not, whether or not Chiefs deem Supermassive I guess a lethargic enough team in the early game to play Swiper on a champion that requires a lot of farm. And if they do, then it'll come down to whether or not Supermassive can outmaneuver them in lane swaps. But both teams have a pretty good macro understanding and two pretty good junglers for the wildcard region. I think mid lane is just going to be like a farm test. I think neither mid lane is going to be involved in the early macro game too much. I just hope that both teams play like they're supposed to play, because then we'll get an interesting game.
Yeah, this low key could be like a really interesting matchup that could have a lot of effect on the standings later on, because if Supermassive is supposed to be one of the top teams at the tournament, threat to make the finals, and then OS comes out really strong and upsets them, suddenly Turkey is in a pretty tough spot, because if you're INTZ, if you're Detonation, if you're Turkey, you look at the Chiefs and you think, we got to win this game. So I'm really looking forward to this game, actually. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I should point out, this is, I guess for most teams this is true, but this is the first time Chiefs are coming back to this best of one format for quite a while. And they're a team that certainly seems to perform really well when it's just a one-off game, when they have the prep time to scout out their opponents and to develop a strategy. They usually come out, execute it, and win straight up. That's how they cruise the OPL. And you'll know, even after the OPL switched to best of three, they weren't dominant even after they got to the back. They were still dropping games here and there. But, it's best of one. This is Chiefs' strength, in my opinion. But Supermassive is a stronger team on paper, but this is Chiefs' best opportunity to, if they don't win this, I don't think they can win the tournament.
Yeah, and Chiefs always perform the best on day one as well. So
yeah,
So this is the
host killer.
best. Yeah. So the next game is DFM versus Saigon Jokers, which is going to be Zeros' first big test. If you look at Saigon Jokers, they have a strong bot lane with Celebrity and 2, whereas Zeros is probably one of the weaker AD carries at the tournament. I think that from what I saw of Celebrity, he's better. Radier is definitely a stronger AD carry. Macau is a stronger AD carry. I think this is a game that will really set the tone for the rest of DFM's tournament. If Zeros is able to just have a really solid game, play the way he likes to play, where he just positions in team fight, stays out, play something like Ezreal, poke, clean up, let Udapon and Zeros and Catch do the engaging. I think that DFM has a really good chance to take this game pretty handily, especially because if Catch can get Udapon steamrolling in the top lane, especially on something like Echo versus Rao, I think DFM will win this game. But if they're able to focus bot lane and crush Zeros early, that's going to be rough.
Do we know which side the teams are playing?
I don't believe so, no.
I think they're on the blue side. I think they are. I'm not sure.
Who's on blue side?
I think the nation of blue side.
Then I think Saigon Jokers does have the advantage that they are really good at building a comp which is opening up for counter picking mid. So if they can have the red side counter pick, then they can force stable solo lanes where Celebrity and Sue can like flex their strengths over that spot lane. But on the other hand, Jinky is a potato. If you talked about how no jungler in the LGO is punching Catches more silly extensions, and Jinky is not going to be the jungler that starts punishing him. So, I mean, if Jinky could not be a complete utter potato and not let Catch go wild on the solo lanes, then Celebrity and Sue can definitely snowball a game into a quick win. But I would say that FM should win this one.
I also think pick ban is a really important thing, particularly against Dead FM, because for whatever reason, people do not try to pan out anything from Catch. They focus on banning out like the big champions in their mind for Seros and Udapon. They'll ban out Seros' Zillion. They'll ban out stuff like that. But they give Catch Nidalee, and they'll give Catch Graves. And he's just so comfortable on that Nidalee. It's by far his most comfortable champion. And even in the finals, Rampage gave him the Nidalee 2 games in a row, and it was not pretty at all. And so I think if Saigon Jokers gets it in their mind that they need to ban out like Udapon or Seros, it's a huge mistake.
I don't think they're bothered. They might target Udapon, but they don't bother. They don't ever bother with banning mid, because banning mid is pointless to them because they always save the counter pick. So it doesn't matter the mid matchup because they're always going to pick a counter pick on red side. So I assume they probably ban out Nidalee because Jinky doesn't play it. Does Catch play Kindred?
Let me check. If he has, I think he's only played it once. Let me make sure, because they almost never ban him out, so he's been able to get that Nidalee whenever he wants it. Catch.
Which tells me that teams aren't paying attention to how
that
team wins in Japan.
He has 2 games on Kindred.
Yeah, I was just wondering because Jinky basically just plays Graves or at least whenever they're up. So
yeah, his his final game in the finals actually was a 9-1-5 performance on Kindred.
So my expectation would be Graves and Nidalee get banned by both teams, and then they'll probably be trading Elise and Kindred. That's how I imagine jungle matchup playing out. So I think if it's Elise versus Kindred, it's okay. Like Jinky can keep Rowan the Vita stable, but I don't expect that to happen. I expect them they're going to do something like tunnel on top because Ro's really weak and they might get scared of Udapon.
I actually would be insanely surprised if Detonation Focus Me got Nidalee even once this tournament. I think that it's a huge mistake unless your jungler is Revolta.
I don't know. Like, it's unless you're willing to first pick Nidalee on this patch as a blue side team, it's
DFM definitely
like,
has. DFM has first pick Nidalee in multiple games.
No, I think Nidalee. That's what I'm saying. I think Nidalee's a great first pick. I just wonder, are there more important people in the game still? Because I can actually see Nidalee slipping through the cracks just because there are more OPs to ban out.
Yeah, like the Echo. Udapon only has that one game on Echo, but that was a hell of a one game, and I'm fully expecting him to play it quite a bit more at IWCI.
Oh yeah, pretty much every top laner at this tournament should know how to play Echo by now. It's been long enough.
Yeah, Echo and Maokai.
Yeah, I want Udapon to like just bust out the Scion though, because nobody plays that champion. Find a matchup that's like not terrible for it, and just play the damn thing.
You don't think he'd get punished?
I don't know. He probably would pick it against pick it in the LAS game.
Picking Scion just sounds like if they pick Scion items, that basically comes across to me as detonation of hit full hubris and think they can do whatever they want.
That's actually been the biggest reason that they've lost games too, especially in previous seasons. DFM was famous for getting overconfident when things are going well and picking silly stuff, or like just picking comfort champions and not paying attention to their not respecting their opponents. Whenever Saros locks in Zed, I get a sinking feeling in my stomach, because in general Saros is a pretty conservative player. He's pretty careful. He'll farm and he'll just take grid engagements. But when that guy locks in Zed, he does shit like dive into 3 people with half of his team already dead and not even get the kill and go 1-6 in that game. So leave the Zed at home, please, Saros.
So, as a quick aside, Emily, what is with CBLOL's obsession with Zed? Why does every team pick Zed, even in top lane? Like, why does this region just seems obsessed with picking Zed on everyone?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's because like I think the Zed obsession started when he was like what was it? Duskblade was released, and everyone was like, "Oh, Zed's gonna be the new OP," and like suddenly you have all these CBLOL mid laners who are just like waiting to play Zed.
Duskblade of Draxar.
Yeah,
it's 2 ults.
Which is like you know, I don't even think like half the games is even built on Zed. I think it's more just like Zed has always been one of those assassins that mid laners in the region like to play. I thought Talkers used Zed really well to do like back when Zerat Portal was just ridiculous. They had like this 1-3-1 split push with Talkers always pushing side lanes on like split push Zed with Zerats, and he was just like murdering people all over the map. So like that was probably like my favorite Zed showing of the season.
And importantly, remember, Brazilian mid laners are weebs, and Zed is a ninja.
I was just about to say that.
It always comes back to the weeb thing. I'm not going to deny, like, if you ever look at, like, the Brazilian ladder, like, there are so many weeb names on that ladder. It's not even funny. It's great.
The other Latin American teams have that, too. There was a Peruvian Dota 2 team that got really high at one of the recent tournaments, where I think their AD carry was named Kotaro, like for no reason. His name was just Kotaro. And when Revel, the shoutcaster for LJL, saw that the guy's name was Takeshi in CBLOL, he was just so confused, because it's like naming yourself John. It's a completely generic, unremarkable Japanese name that isn't even tied to any anime. It's not even a really common name for anime characters. He's just Takeshi. Anyway, let's move on to the next matchup. That would be the Chiefs versus Hard Random.
Oh boy.
I mean,
if you
INTZ
guys,
lost to Chiefs last time when they were like
Yeah.
jet lagged and got to finals. If her random does the same, I'm okay with that, I guess.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, Chiefs, they're the team that win when they're not supposed to win and lose when they're not supposed to lose. And in this case, facing a jet lag team from Russia, like, I fully expected to lose. But I think it's a really cool matchup because, I mean, obviously both top laners are pretty strong carries for their team, but you have a really interesting dynamic in the sense that the jungles, like, Thejos is, Wonder, you talked a bit about how he's okay, but he's not like a hard carry. Whereas Spooks is probably the hardest carry of any jungler node right now, apart from Carbon. I think given hard random's reliance on their solo lanes to take it through, like, I mean, both Radia and both bot lanes here are quite good, but neither is going to overpower the other. And in a 1v1 lane, I can't see Swiper or Smurf running away with the D.Va. And so I think hard random will come into this, putting and funneling resources into the mid lane. But I think if Chiefs put Swift on the control mage, because he lost every single game he played like an assassin in the final of Legacy, but he won every single control mage game. I think it'll come down to whether or not hard random can recognize that they can't force their solo lane advantage, and they're going to have to look for something somewhere else. Because you can't just like brute force mechanics against Chiefs.
I think Harden will just like play the comfort zone picks like Maokai, like casual Grace, casual Azir, basically like play what you know. Or like probably Anive will make her return, I think. Why not?
Again,
considering that they are going to be like jet lagged, you basically are going to pray that your comfort zone is untouched, so you kind of will just do what you do in like your region and escape with it. And I don't think Chiefs is the kind of team to actually expose hard randoms and make them go out of their comfort zone. Because like Spooks might be a carry jungler, but he's pretty similar to hard randoms one because he throws so many like games by simply giving up pressure by trying too hard. And that's basically all hard random needs. They need a bit of freedom in the early game because the early game isn't like that strong. And then mid game they will be just about fine because they team fight very solidly. They don't like... They kind of went for a bunch of random Baron calls in like during the LAN finals. And they like dodged the Lizard throughout the regular season. Like they had... I don't even think they killed like 10 Barons during the regular season simply because their like average game time was 28 minutes.
How many games?
That is like half the
14 games. Game time. 14 games. Yeah. But yeah, should be okay, I guess. Unless they will be like hell jet lagged and they will like get ruffle stomped by NTZ. So morale will be kind of low. This way, I guess. But I mean, even like during All-Stars, CIS started 0-2. And basically won every game after that. So I don't think it will hurt that much, especially considering that they have, I think, one game the next day. Let me check. Yeah, they have one game next day, so it will be like, they might just go basically like all in and then go sleep and then play like Lion next day, so it'll be okay, I guess.
Another day sleeping, essentially.
Yeah, their sleeping will be pretty solid.
Alright. Yeah. So there's 2 more matches on day 1. Both of them are against Latin American teams. We have INTZ versus Lion Gaming, which I think everyone is going to predict for INTZ.
It's just a pair of beatdowns.
And then DFM versus ISG, which should absolutely be for DFM. So we've gone on for quite a while now, so let's just go around the room and get everyone's prediction for the finals and who they think is going to win. And then we can close out. I'll start. I think the finals is going to be DFM, INTZ at number 1. I think INTZ is going to probably go undefeated in the round robin, and DFM is going to just lose to INTZ. And then I think DFM is going to win the best of 5. I think
Good job. I like your homerism. You're very loyal.
No, yeah. I like if I have to be like totally objective, this is INTZ's tournament to lose. Absolutely. But I don't know. Something inside is really giving me. It's making me feel good about DFM's chances.
I mean, is anyone going to say anything to the contrary of INTZ v DFM finals with INTZ winning?
I was actually going to go INTZ hard random.
Yeah, I agree.
With INTZ winning. I don't know if you agree with INTZ winning, but I mean,
no,
like
INTZ will definitely win. Like, I don't think
based on their performance in the finals, like this really is their tournament to lose. And I know we said that last year, but they've significantly improved since then. Even with like they have the same roster, but they didn't really have that roster since the last international wildcard tournament they were at. But just like watching them improve, knowing how hungry the team is to prove everyone wrong that said they were chokers at the other, like, you know, because they kind of got a little bit ripped apart for that since they lost and they were expected to win. So I think they're very motivated to win this tournament. They want to win. They're already there, so you know that helps because they've had like a week of prep time instead of a day. So hopefully, I just really want them to come out and have a good showing at this tournament.
Yeah,
and I also just really like of all the other teams in this tournament, I think Hard Random should be able to best teams in like a best of situation instead of a best of one. And that's kind of where I'm looking at, because like I don't even like predicting INTZ doesn't drop a game because best of ones are so like wonky to me always. But when you get to those best ofs later on in the actual playoff bracket, that's where I see Hard Random doing better than a lot of their other would-be opponents like Detonation Focus Me, because I just don't think they've ever been challenged in a best of.
That's actually not true. In the LJL finals last time, they lost to Rampage 3-1. They've actually had a number of close finals in the past. The Grand Championship in 2014, they won 3-2 over Rascal Chester. In the finals for LJL Season 2, they lost 3-1 to Rampage, and then in the Grand Championship, they actually went down 0-2 and then ran it back 3-2 to win the event. So they've had some pretty serious best of five the best of fives that they've had to play, but they've never had a best of five like that internationally, which is a big deal.
I also think, like, I guess I was thinking more of the most recent one against Rampage. Yeah, where it was not even close.
Yeah, that was a massacre. Which is what INTZ did to Keed Stars, and Keed Stars is a much better team than Rampage.
Well, it's not like the players on ZFM aren't used to losing, so to speak. Maybe not as a team, but I mean, Catch and Eternal were on Spenu. That's like the fifth ring of hell, man. If you're a Korean player, because you know that no matter how hard you try, you will never win. Like no matter how individually skilled you are, like you just can't win because you're spending.
Yeah,
I think if they go down the series, it's all speculation at this point. Like this is nothing concrete, but I feel like every single player on that team has enough experience losing to be able to handle.
Yeah. I think if DFM loses to Saigon Jokers on day one, that's going to set the tone for the rest of the tournament. Though I think if they cannot beat Saigon Jokers in that first game, they will not. They will have trouble centering themselves and really coming back to make playoffs or to make the finals.
For me, it's not about whether they're used to losing. It's more about whether they're used to adapting. And with this specific roster, I definitely don't. I mean, I guess that's like why my one mark against Dead FM is that they just really haven't been challenged to adapt to. They haven't had another team like this specific lineup, they haven't had one other team in Japan push them to really change what they're doing. And so I see them struggling in a best of situation where they have to adapt a lot more quickly to an opponent.
Yeah.
I guess that's like, I don't know. That could be just a weird opinion of mine. But like I value adaptation very highly. Yeah. So
if Revolta is able to stuff Catch and stop him from not even getting a lead, but like going even, I think Dead FM is in a place they've never been before, where they don't have the advantage in jungle pressure. Where when you're Seros or you're Utapon or you're their bot lane, you can always count on Catch having more jungle pressure than their opponent. Which, if Revolta is really far ahead of Catch, that will be a really unfamiliar situation for them.
I think it'll be a tournament of adaptation. The group stage is 4 days long, and we have the best of 5 final. If those adaptations are going to come out, I don't know if they'll come out in the final. I think they'll come out a lot earlier. And like you said, like you'll know pretty early which teams are going to fly and which teams are going to sink.
Does anybody think that we're really underrating Supermassive? I know there's one guy in the chat who's kind of getting mad at us for underrating Supermassive, but
I think we're underrating Supermassive, definitely. We're kind of like treating them like they're not part, like that. They're definitely in contention 100%, but it's just.
Given the story of like Turkey underperforming in the best of 1 formats during those international competitions, can you really see them making top 2? Top 2 is basically like, I guess 5 wins will guarantee you top 2. And expecting, like Dark Passage barely got 3 last time. Besiktas barely got 2 players as well before being in best of 5s. So
the fact that it's a best of 1 round robin into the finals is really bad for Turkey. If it was best of 1 to semifinals, I think Turkey has a much better chance. Yeah, if it was top 4, I think Turkey has a much better chance. But we've seen in the past Turkey not being super consistent in best of 1s, and that's going to be pretty hard.
I think looking at the format, the one about the Saigon Jokers have is that they have a lot of historical infrastructure. Like they have 2 Korean coaches that are coming with them, so it's a very long series. It's a very long tournament, like 4 days of constant best of 1. So I think there's potential Saigon Jokers could sneak top 2 and win the tournament just simply because they have the infrastructure to just constantly change it up, because like their solo lanes are like blank slates to just imprint whatever's good for the bot lane. So since it's on a different patch, it is possible that Saigon Jokers could take the tournament just through sheer adaptation. But
but you put Yang up against Rao.
Yeah, well, you put Mikao against Celebrity.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, Mikao's not a strong laner. His teamfight positioning is good, so that's my defense. Like, I know he's taking a lot of criticism even within the region for his laning. I think he's improved, but
yeah. I just read on Reddit that he's a kind of Vardags of Brazil. So what am I supposed to expect from him?
Wow! Wow!
No, you understand that comment was a praise of him, that he was the Vardags of Brazil.
Not even the Reckles and the Steel
Oh, God, I don't know how to respond to that.
He's not even a power multiplier. That's bad. But on Supermassive, I have to say, like, I think they're a good team in best of 5. Obviously, right, they have to be because they won 3 straight ones from the quarterfinals to win against everyone in Turkey. They took out, I think they did manage to dodge Dark Passage because Besiktas beat them, but they ended up beating Besiktas in the grand final. But something I can't get away from, and I don't know how substantiated this is, but they were 8 and 6 in the regular season. Like that's in best of 2s, I believe. Or was it best of 1s? I think it was best of 1s format. And even then, like they had to play a tiebreaker to get into to get that 3rd seed locked down. It was worrying, because they're a team that performed well in best of 5, but again, the format does not favor them at all. So it's not that they're a weak team. It's just that we see them in the final.
Let's remember there's another team who barely slipped through in a round robin best of one format and then won 3 straight best of 5s to make it to Worlds. So
yeah, let's not talk about that.
But so does anybody have a different prediction than the 2 predictions that we've heard so far? INTZ DFM or INTZ hard random? Doesn't sound like it.
This one? Sorry, I just lagged out for a bit.
Oh no, I said, do you have a different prediction?
I do think if Supermassive could somehow scrape their way to top 2, they could win the finals against INTZ or hard random or Death FM. But given how weak they were in the best of 1 format in TCL, it's like I'm not optimistic that they can even make the finals.
Yeah, those are my thoughts exactly. Again, it is different. They're not playing against Turkish teams, they're playing against international teams. And as far as infrastructure and experience goes, they have more than most of the teams here. And I think they're more likely to come to here than they were in TCL. And I would see them as a top 2 team in this tournament, regardless of best of 1 or best of 5 or whatever. If they get to the final, I know they'll win. I don't know they'll win. I think they'll win.
I think they'd win
even
the finals.
Yeah.
I think they'd win the finals. It's just a matter of getting there.
Yeah, if the final is TCL, if Supermassive Detonation, I'm definitely predicting Supermassive over Detonation at that point. But if I allow myself to be full fanboy, doesn't matter who they meet in the finals, DFM is going to win.
You're Koreans. How can you lose? Koreans always win.
Yeah, that's true. We do have 2 Koreans. 2 Koreans is more than most teams have. And as we know, Korea always wins.
I mean, Team Tranquility had 2 Koreans.
If those guys had reach, man.
They had reach, man. They had an OSL champion.
Yeah. But yeah, I think no matter what, this is going to be a really fun tournament.
Absolutely.
All the teams have a lot of personality. They all have a lot of very different styles and a lot of very different picks. I think, and there's not one team that's going to run away with it. I think INTZ is definitely the favorite, but I don't think that the amount that they're better than everyone else is the same amount that Rocks Tigers are better than everyone else in the world right now for MSI, for instance.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be really, really interesting. All right, so we've actually gone on for almost 2 hours now, so let's start closing this out. Let's go around the room. Emily, you can go first. Shout outs, people you want to, where can we find you? Where can we follow you?
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm so bad at these. Shout outs to the Score Esports, which is where I write. And I'll be doing some Brazil stuff this week. And then thank you to all of you guys for having me on. That's it.
Yep. Shout out to my mom. I'm not actually working in esports at the moment, so that's probably the biggest thing I have going in my life. But yeah, no, I'm totally looking forward to this tournament. I'm obviously cheering hard for the Chiefs to take it, but I think no matter what, I think the wildcard region, as I'm not going to call it a region, but the wildcard scene as a whole, at least as a whole, I'm not talking about individual regions like Southeast Asia or whatever, but I think the teams have improved faster than other regions have. And so I think if we get more tournaments like this, like really long tournaments where the teams have heaps of opportunities to show what they're capable of, I think we could see, another Pain Gaming by the time Worlds happens.
Next.
Well, I haven't really written in a while, but if I do write, it's likely to be on liquidlegends.net. And shout out to Garena for continually sabotaging the GPL and LMS. And in spite of getting a $170 million investment, apparently being able to provide a prize pool for the GPL. So thanks, Garena. Keep doing you.
God.
Wonder?
Who's the Russian? I think he's...
I don't know. Shout out to Team Liquid Discord. It's a pretty fun place to hang out in. Shout out to Riot Russia, who is trying the hardest to actually make the dead game work in our country. And shout out to Juju because Juju's stream is the best.
Juju.
All right, and for me, I am in the middle of trying to graduate, so I haven't actually written anything in a while. But it will. You can find me at Shiro Kaisen. It's written right there. Shout out to Red Bull for publishing this really awesome profile that I did on the manager of Detonation Focus Me, which you can find at Red Bull Esports. It's actually one of my favorite articles I've ever written, and if you're interested in learning more about Detonation, you should totally read that article because it was super fun. And Yahoo, the Yahoo algorithm actually stole it and posted it on Yahoo News, so that was fun too. Also, shout out to Red Bull because they're sponsoring an event I'm doing this weekend. If you're in the Southern California area, you should come to USC and play Smash because Smash is fun. And shout out to Riot Japan because they're brand new this year. The server is brand new this year, and they've been dealing with a really difficult problem of trying to build this PC culture in a country that just doesn't have that culture, along with a whole bunch of endemic problems with the scene and dealing with a bunch of kind of unreliable partners in the industry. And they've been doing, I think, a fantastic job, even amidst really heavy criticism from the evil internet community. So keep on keeping on, Riot Japan. And I hope you all turn into the International Wildcard Tournament because wildcard scenes are awesome. And
Yep.
I hope we can have more people excited about these teams and less just like Bronzil spam in Twitch chat. So yeah, thanks for joining us for WILDCHAT. I don't know if this will ever happen again. Hopefully we'll be able to do more stuff like this. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to try to upload it to YouTube, I think. So yeah, tune in this weekend. Starts at the 16th. You'll be able to find all the information at all the different regional Riot websites. If you speak English, check the Riot OS webpage for information. And hope to see you in the stream chat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.